Hi, welcome back. First of all, thank you to everyone for sending in your life story ideas. We're getting some great topics. This week, an uplifting story from the Cram family. Imagine all the wonderful things that go through the minds of new parents. Will my child be a Boy Scout, Girl Scout? Where will they go to college? Well, as you'll see on this week's Your Life story, it's a story of love and raising a child with a disability and never allowing disability to hold you back.
When you originally get a diagnosis of a child having a disability, you realize that your child's life is going to be something totally different that you weren't prepared for.
13-year-old Hadley is the second of Kenny and Shelley Cram's two daughters. Like older sister Sarah, Hadley was born a few weeks premature and tiny at birth. Hadley's respiration and vital signs were good, but at 4 pounds 3 ounces, doctors decided to keep her in the hospital until she gained weight. Expectations for their new daughter changed suddenly on Hadley's 10th day of life when the Crams got a late-night phone call from the neonatal team.
They said they didn't know what was the matter with her. They said that she was exhibiting seizure-like activity, but they weren't seizures. And you could plainly look at Hadley and see she was having seizures. Her eyes were rolled back in her head, and her limbs were flailing.
Unfortunately, Hadley continued to seize for 2 days and suffered a bilateral brain hemorrhage. She was ultimately diagnosed with cerebral palsy, a serious condition brought on by a lack of oxygen that causes damage to the brain, impairing motor and cognitive skills.
It wasn't until about she was 10 months old that we realized she wasn't passing any of her milestones. She wasn't rolling over, she wasn't speaking at all, or I was very much in denial. It was very difficult to put her into a wheelchair for the first time, because when you do that, when you put your child into a wheelchair, you're admitting to yourself that most likely my child's not going to ever walk.
In spite of Hadley's medical problems, the Crams wanted life to be as normal as possible for their daughters. Like other moms, Shelley took her girls to the neighborhood playground, but found that navigating the terrain with a wheelchair was nearly impossible. While the mulch on the ground served as a safety feature for most children, it kept kids like Hadley in their wheelchairs out.
Sarah would be running around, we would get someplace, and then I'd actually have to physically take Hadley out of her wheelchair to get her up onto the equipment, and then there wasn't really anything for Hadley to do up there. So I went home and I decided that there needed to be a place for all kids to play together. We built the organization's called Hadley's Park, and Hadley's Park is an organization whose mission is to build fully inclusive playgrounds for children with and without disabilities to play together, so that it kind of would tear down the barriers of stigmas against kids with disabilities.
Shelley had no experience running an organization or fundraising, but her personal